You know, living in Jersey and fighting aliens from afar, I heard that you have to find first gear in your giant robot car. Is that true?
I do believe it's true, but there's also many other things that can go alongside said truth, like uh, chicks dig giant robots.
That's true. And I mean, I dig giant robots.
I also dig giant robots.
And we certainly dig giant robots.
And definitely, yeah, 100% love giant robots.
Would you say that they're rather nice?
Heh, nice.
Nice. Nice. Uh, hey everybody. Welcome to a little audio discussion video that we're doing. This was originally going to be a stream, but I decided to make things easier just as a video instead. Um, so just because I want to start talking about animation a bit more on some of the socials and channels, and slowly we're working on something pretty big actually. So for now, consider this sort of a template placeholder type of style. But yeah, welcome back to Mecha Week, where we appreciate all things giant robots and mechas and explosions and combat all week long. And we had a previous discussion, if you want to check it out, called the Mega Mecha Extravaganza, which try saying that thought 5 times fast, where we just talked about all things mecha TV shows, anime, and short series, and as well as books and video games and stuff. We did that with some friends, plus we checked out some more Mecha Break. So, but today, I want to talk about a very specific series. A very specific, just very popular, yet ironically very niche animated series. And I have a friend with me who's very compassionate about the series because he grew up on it. So
It was one of my favorites.
it was one of his favorites. So we're talking about that's
Vegas. LR.
Megas XLR. So, and well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just talk about our favorite episodes, characters, moments from the show, and just kind of gush about it. Plus, kind of go over some trivia and history behind the series for a little bit. So, um, Renji, do you want to start us off?
Yes, I think I finally have it playing in the background. No, I did not buy it. It's actually on YouTube.
Haha.
The free option.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, this show's always just been a favorite of mine for the sole fact that it literally came out of left field.
Yeah. And its upbringing certainly was definitely interesting too. So,
And it definitely has one of my favorite voice actors playing the villain.
which is
And his subordinate was also voiced by one of my favorites.
yeah, which is
Clancy Brown and Kevin Michael Richardson.
yeah. There's some good voice actors in this series. Like you've got some real good alumni, uh, ranging all the way from literally Jennifer Hale, Wendy Lee, Steve Bloom, Kevin Michael Richardson, Clancy Brown, the, the works. Even Frank Welker's in it. it
And it's just, uh, it's still so good, even as I'm watching it now.
How would you what's say give us your thoughts on the show? Like what's your feelings towards it?
My feelings towards it speaks to me because it's simple in its execution, and it speaks to me because I love sci-fi action a lot, and of course giant robots. I did like the giant robot aspects, but the fact that this world is just okay with a fat dude owning a giant robot in the middle of Jersey.
Yeah, and just just doing just random shit with it, which is funny because like the first couple early episodes of the series clearly just sort of established that like Coop, who's our main protagonist, has just no idea what's really going on. He just thought, oh, this thing looks cool. I'm just gonna take my old car and then just like slap it on top of a giant robot.
No, how he got the giant robot is even stupider.
Oh yeah.
He bought it from a junkyard for fun. Let's see. Fast forwarding into the episode of.
Was it like $1? Like less
That's what I'm
than
trying to
that.
figure out.
Yeah. God. I remember it being like super cheap.
He bought it for $2.
For $2.
A giant freedom fighting robot.
What a steal.
Quite literally, because the adventure this robot goes on is kooky and fun.
Now, meanwhile, while this is happening, it turns out that the robot itself was never really meant to be on Earth, which makes it even funnier. It turns out this robot was meant to fight against an armada of evil aliens hell-bent on destroying like planets and galaxies, and was the last line of like defense against these against this armada. So, and no, we're not talking the good aliens. We're talking bad aliens. So,
I had aliens.
the gruffy, mean aliens, the ones that just like to destroy for the sake of destroying. So, nice. Exactly. But yeah, no. The series is fantastic in more ways than one. Especially because one of my favorite things about the series was always how unique the animation stood out.
It was. I always kind of reminded me of more polished Ed and Eddie animation.
See, it always reminded me more of like growing up watching old like because you folks got to remember, Renji was an '80s kid. I was a '90s kid, so I grew up watching.
I'm a '90s kid too. Remember, I was born literally in the '90s.
Oh, that's right. So both of us were '90s kids. And so we both kind of grew up watching not only '90s Saturday morning like cartoons and stuff of like action shows, but even a little bit of like some of those '80s ones as well too. And it reminds us of sort of that combat heavy sort of like, laser light show and like, fight first, ask questions later type of style. But its animation is very heavy, not just in terms of slapstick, but in terms of combat as well too.
Yeah, its fighting animations were actually pretty solid.
Yeah. So it's very polished.
Even the explosions.
Plenty of explosions. And another thing too that I just really liked about Mega XLR was also that it wasn't afraid to not pull any punches and also, present a level of comedy that was kind of subtle and kind of funny as well too. Lots of Easter eggs and visual gags that you blinked and you missed it type of thing too. And this was one of the first shows at the time that I remember watching that had that type of animation and comedy style. Like, even if you just go back and go ahead.
And it's just like one of the jokes that just literally happened. A robot falls on an elementary school. Kids celebrate. Kids rejoice.
Yep.
We don't know if people were already in the school, but
look, it's fine. Oh. I assume they got everyone out safely, but Yeah, Renji's watching the first episode right now as we're talking, so. But, yeah. No, it's a fantastic series. And I kind of wanted to go over a little bit of niche history with the series as well, too. And I figured I'd offer some brand new trivia, even to a super fan like Renji, who may not even know this.
And maybe I do. You don't know.
Maybe he does. So,
like I said, I was a huge fan of this show, even despite its short lifespan.
This is true. It's weird because it had 2 seasons, but only lasted less than a year. So, it definitely showed its age, but it's also just a really fun action show with plenty of comedy. And plenty of science fiction as well, too. So, there is actually a bit of an interesting history behind it, though. So, to take you guys back a little bit, you gotta understand, before there was Mega's XLR, there was a show called MTV's Downtown. And it was kind of a semi-gritty, rough around the edges, but gritty in the sense of animation style, not gritty in terms of tone. Like young adult sort of punk look at life. And it was done by George Christie, and he was one of the original co-creators of the show. And Christie, who was originally one of the co-creators of the show, had a character that was in the show as well too. So, who was actually the guy that's at the junkyard. So, in Mega's XLR. So, little Easter egg animation fun fact. But one of the things was that basically him, along with I'm saying the name wrong, so I apologize, Jody Schaffner, basically conceived the idea of the animated series where the main character would pilot just a giant robot utilizing his video game skills. And the original pilot for the series was not ever actually named Mega's XLR. Do you know what the original name of the pilot was?
If I remember right, S-Drive?
Nope. Guess again.
I actually do not. That's the only name that comes to mind.
So the original pilot short was called Lowbrow. And it was shown in 2002 as part of Cartoon Network's Cartoon Weekend Summerfest. A whole weekend dedicated to all your favorite cartoons, plus brand new, never before seen cartoons and pilots that would determine which pilot would become a brand new series and which one would become a brand new cartoon. And it was by far the most popular among viewers. It was intensely popular, and it got a lot of votes. So much so that the show itself, even at one point, along with the original pilot, re-aired on Toonami from a short while as well too. So, but yeah, when the show originally was picked up as Megas XLR, they aired the show on Toonami from May 1st, 2004 to January 15th, 2005 for about 2 seasons, roughly about 26 episodes. Now, the series was canceled due to low ratings, just because, unfortunately, not a lot of people tuned into it. So, but what are you going to do with low ratings? But here's the interesting part. Megas XLR was produced by Cartoon Network Studios, but the animation for the main title and a lot of the animation work for season 1 was done at Titmouse Inc., which a lot of you may know to this day who've done a lot of work for Adult Swim, for MTV, for Comedy Central, for all sorts of different companies. So, and what's even more interesting is the fact that the actual series itself, although it won the contest during the Cartoon Weekend Summerfest, it still wasn't as popular as most people thought it would. But it was still cool and still entertaining. So, but yeah, the competing pilots were followed by a sneak peek as well too of the upcoming cartoon codenamed Kids Next Door, which also won one of the previous competitions as well too. So, yeah. Good show, good series. Now, as much as a lot of people loved the series, it had some merchandise, some toys, but not a lot. So, I remember owning actually a little Megas XLR action figure that I got from CartoonNetworkShop.com at the time.
Sadly, I did not have any of the merch.
I only had the figurine. I had the figurine and I had like one other toy as well too, and that was it. So, but yeah. There was, however, at the time, a potential video game that was originally hinted at and potentially worked on during the production of the series. Yeah. So in December 2012, a series of messages were posted on Twitter by the director, Chris Pionsky, hinting at production of a game based on the series with the video game company Valve. They had shown interest in creating a video game related to the show and or Disney's Motor City, but no official comment project was ever made by Valve or Cartoon Network. However, Chris had mentioned on Twitter that ultimately he had been unable to sort out the licensing needed to actually get it started. So, but the other thing too was that unfortunately it was revealed that years and years later it was in fact sold off to the government as a tax write-off. Yeah, in an interview done by George Christie back in 2014, it was quoted that Megas was written off as a tax loss and as such cannot be exploited, at least domestically, in any way, or the network would get in some sort of tax or legal trouble. At least in the US. So, there was unfortunately a problem. So, any sort of future for the series of it coming back in any way possibility was not attemptable. So,
Yeah, it's very very slim.
Yeah. But that's basically a little brief history of the series. Renji, what do you know about the series? What's your thoughts?
Well, I actually remember going to the Cartoon Network website back when this show was still airing, um, or at least sometime afterwards, because, like you said, it didn't last very long. It had a mini 2D type fighting game on their website for Mecha XLR.
I think I vaguely remember that.
Because I remember logging on not every day. I wasn't that obsessed with it. It was just go through the level, beat the boss, hooray! And that's
Yeah,
it.
I vaguely remember it. There was two games. There was Megas XLR versus the Universe, which was a 2D runner shooter, and then Megas XLR Final Battle, as well as a third game called Appetite for Demolition. They were all Flash games.
So technically, it did get games, but they were, as you said, mainly for the website.
Yeah, they were CartoonNetwork.com games. So, but still games. So,
And this episode, going back to your point on the A-list voice actors,
mm-hmm.
it had such stars other than the main cast. Coop, who was voiced by David D. Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
Wendy Lee as Kiva, Steve Bloom as Jamie, and Scott Reneker. I know I'm probably butchering his last name, so I do apologize. As Goat, which is the guy from the Junkyard.
Which is also the guy from MTV's Downtown.
Kevin Michael Richardson as Glorf's commander, and Clancy Brown as Gorath, the main villain. But going through the A-list, one of my all-time favorite actors, like live action actors voiced in this series, the legendary Big Chin Man himself, Bruce Campbell.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He played Magnanimous, aka the Modoc joke. Because that's what he was. It was just a giant floating head.
He was a giant floating head.
And also the legendary Peter Cullen was in this. And if you don't know who Peter Cullen is, then you are not a Transformers fan, because it is the voice of Optimus Prime. And one of your favorites is in here, Crash. Phil Lamar is in here.
Yeah. You'd be surprised, folks. A lot of people from older cartoons, adult animation, and a lot of famous voice actors really had a hand in making this series come alive.
It's just amazing going through the cast list, but the one that obviously stands out for me, because I'm a huge fan of him, is Bruce Campbell. He was only around for 2 episodes, but I still love Magnanimous as one of my favorite side villains.
This is true.
And I cannot believe I did not recognize that voice at first. But then again, it has been a while since I've seen this show.
It really has been a while since the show has pretty much like resurfaced in the eye of pretty much anybody on the internet. But what makes it funny is, despite that the network said that it had some low ratings, a lot of people still tuned into the show. Like, although people claim that the show was canceled due to low ratings, there was argument back and forth between the studios, Titmouse Inc., and the producers as to like what was going on. In fact, one article specifically from TV Trope, from their website, says that despite the show clearly being high in viewer ratings, it wasn't renewed for a third season because changes in management and the CEO was apparently not getting it. If that wasn't bad enough, the show was written off and can no longer be, like I say, legally aired on the network in the United States. And as such,
which
likewise, could not get a DVD release either.
which will always make me sad.
Yeah, it is sad. So it performed good, but not to the standards of the network at the time. And I mean, look, these types of things do unfortunately happen. It is the nature of a lot of these shows, even ones that only last a season or two. If a show just doesn't perform well enough, or doesn't sell enough with merchandise, or just isn't as marketable, then it's usually just considered a one and done. But crazier things have happened with one and done series, especially now in the current day and age where you see everything being rebooted or revived from the dead.
So I think this is one of these shows I kind of wish I kind of do, and they kind of don't want them to remake, because I don't feel like they would get the charm of the original.
You would feel like if a revival or a reboot was made of Mecha XLR, it just wouldn't have the same tone.
No, because it hit weirdly at the right time for me, and for a lot of people apparently.
Which was?
It was just the charm of the show. It was stupid. It had fighting robots. It had fighting aliens. It had explosions. It had an A-list cast. I can go on, honestly.
Well, this is your chance. Go on.
I say I wish I can go on, but that's just the main things that come to mind.
Ah, fair enough.
And plus, some of the alien designs are pretty unique, even though the main bad guys kind of go into the Cthulhu territory with the tentacle bats. But then again, this is aliens. You can pretty much get away with almost any kind of design.
Well, to an extent, yeah. And look, as someone who's very invested in alien culture, as I've made not so subtly on this channel, cough cough, I will say that the Glorfs are definitely a interesting race of characters. So, but let's talk about the characters, actually. You can't talk about a show without talking about the good characters. So, like, let's start simple. Let's start with our main protagonist, Harold Coop, or his last name, Coop Plowski.
But Coop sounds cooler.
Coop sounds cooler. Coop is the current pilot of Megas and the main protagonist of the series. He is a video game loving, junk food eating junkie and bum who pretty much just lives in Jersey City. His life has changed one day when he discovers the giant robot in the junkyard sitting there for over 70 years and just decided to deck it out in his own ride. And look, despite not seeming like he's the best looking fighter driving an advanced mech into galactic wars and territories, he did spend years playing video games for all types in different ways that helped him master the art of competing in real fights. His main fighting techniques are basically, ranging from numerous things from wrestling, dancing, racing, and even other combat games. And although Coop can be a clever fighter, he really just does prefer the gung-ho approach of just smashing things to bits and asking questions later, especially if something gets in the way of what he wants. That could be like an ultimate chili cheese dog competition, that could be a new comic, that could be, concerts to a wrestling event, something. But most...
If I remember right, one episode he just got mad because someone took his nachos.
Yeah, that was literally one episode. Just someone took his nachos. Just
He
don't.
was not happy.
He was not happy. Don't mess with a man of his nachos. So, although we could be remembering that wrong, but still. So, but the point is, most of his amazing heroisms and his heroics are usually accidental, and he is prone to end up destroying more of the city and everything in his wake due to his recklessness than he does saving. But ultimately, he's just a simple guy. All he wants to do is just enjoy his way of life without all the interruptions in the way, and is genuinely pretty laid back out of the three, out of the trio. And then you've got Kiva. So, Kiva was originally the intended pilot and engineer of Megas prior to Coop's extreme modifications, quote unquote, and hailing from over 1,000 years into the future. Yeah, by the way, if you guys didn't know, this show involves a little bit of time travel, so, you know,
Just a little bit.
just a wee bit. I don't know, just involving the distant future of 3037. So not a big deal. Just yeah. So not a big deal. But yeah, basically, she hails from over 1,000 years in the future and finds herself stuck in the present. Well, the past now, but the present, due to the destruction of Megas's time drive. And because of that, she has a no-nonsense personality. She's very knowledgeable, tough, and fearless, but she also tries to adopt a small sense of humor and warms up a little bit to living in the 21st century as the series progresses. She's usually confined to the back seat, operating a holographic panel to give advice on, weaknesses and stuff, navigational directions, or just feedback on Megas' system stats. And she can be viewed as kind of Coop's like co-pilot. Kiva repeatedly demonstrates high skills in both robotics and hand-to-hand combat, and is usually the muscle of the trio. And then you've got Coop's best friend and slacker, who's also kind of a smart aleck and a wisecrack, Jamie. He's a wannabe cool guy. You know, the guy that you were friends with in high school at one point. The guy that thinks he's cool and slick and, yeah, man, everyone just wants to be me, man. And, dude, I'm so cool. Like, why don't we go meet up at the 7-Eleven and get some Slurpees, bruh? Like, that shit.
And hitting on anything that moves.
Or breathes. Or exists. Yeah?
Yeah, he's kind of obsessed with the ladies.
He's kind of obsessed with the ladies. I mean, not just ladies at one point. He's always trying to get the girl, often imagining himself being adored by numerous attractive females, but often he has little to no success. He was even lying at one point at Coop just to do so. And personality-wise, he's weak, cowardly most of the time, and often runs at the first sign of danger. He only shows bravery when his friends are gravely threatened. And compared to Kiva and Coop, his contributions are
support, moral in the
yeah, usually limited to his snarky, comments and jokes and banter. But really, he's just along for the ride. And he's often enjoying just the thrill of Coop's and Kiva's misguided adventures. And then finally, the main baddie himself. Now, there's plenty of other villains in this series, do not get us wrong. Plenty of bad guys, plenty of weird creatures and people out there in this series. But this guy, he takes the cake. His name is War Master Goliath. And Gorath. Gorath?
Yeah,
no.
Gorath.
Gorath.
Gorrath.
Oh yeah, I did missay that. Okay, Gorath. And he's the head of the warmongering Gloth? Groth.
Yeah, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah. Basically, they're half cyborg, half cephalopod alien races, and their mission is basically they followed Kiva back to the past and are leading an army back in time to try and retrieve Megas and basically conquer the galaxy. So
At least in the main timeline.
yeah, and because
His
of his
main timeline, at least.
yes, in the main timeline, and because of his actions, he is also trapped in the past with Kiva as well too. And unless he is able to capture the time drive within Megas, there's no way of him getting back. But he truly hates Coop for thwarting him multiple times and often launches as many attacks as possible to kill his ass and try and reclaim Megas and conquer Earth. But you know how it goes. Fails to conquer Earth, gets his butt beaten in, fails in some miserable way, and usually because of sheer luck on Coop's part. So, but yeah, 2 seasons, 13 episodes each, and each episode was about 26 minutes roughly, unless you count the lowbrow plot pilot, but so. But yeah, there wasn't much in terms of merchandise either. Like I said, there were only 2 toys of Megas to ever exist. A non-articulate figure labeled Kiva's drone and a promotional action figure that was sold on the Cartoon Network website. And that was it. Both figures are incredibly rare and hard to find due to being produced in extremely few numbers. There was a promotional DVD that was done in 2007, though, as a kids' meal promotion with Hardee's and Carl's Jr. Basically, the promo DVD released a graphic novel called Jam Packed Action, which basically was Cartoon Network's way of teaming up with DC to do comic book action stories. And in it was a juice box video cartridge that contained 2 episodes, Test Drive and All I Wanted Was a Slushie. Good episodes, by the way. So, but yeah, as amazing as the series is, with its comedy, with its action, with its sci-fi elements, with its cast and voice characters, with its animation, and a lot of hidden gags. Seriously, go rewatch some of the episodes and pause a frame by frame of every time you look at Coop's interior with the button panels. There's always a hidden button gag in every episode. But a lot of good jokes, a lot of slapstick comedy, and just a lot overall. So, and it's just a good series. Renji, do you have anything to add?
Nah, you pretty much nailed all of them on the topic.
Any favorite moments? Any favorite episodes?
Honestly, I always have to say the first episode because it's the one that got me hooked into the show. Since it has been a while, I can't really name a specific moment other than. Yeah, see, I can't even think of one. It's been that long, but I do remember watching the show every time it came up on Cartoon Network when I grew up. It was just silly, goofy action, which Cartoon Network back then was very good at. Yeah, I just love it, honestly.
It's just a fantastic series. What more can be said?
Other than next.
Nice. Now, before we wrap this up, too, there are ways that you can still watch the series. Believe it or not, at the time of this recording, and assuming Cartoon Network hasn't, killed it, You can actually watch every single episode of Megas XLR all in one YouTube video. I'm not gonna link it for obvious reasons, but if you do a quick YouTube search, you can find it pretty easily. So,
I actually found a playlist.
yeah, there's also a playlist as well too of every episode. If not, weirdly enough, you can watch the entire series on Apple TV Plus. You still have to buy the episodes though. But if you're that dedicated, the series overall on Apple TV Plus is what, $20? Last we checked. Renji?
Yes.
Yeah, wasn't it about like $20?
Yeah, $20 for all 26 episodes.
Yeah. So about roughly $1 or $2 a pop. So, which is not terrible. Um, there are other ways that you can watch it as well too, if you still are interested. Unfortunately, it will not be on any sort of other, streaming services like Max or Hulu, just for obvious reasons. But still,
Not even on Prime.
not even on Prime. So it may say it's on Prime, but really it's not on Prime. So now, if you also want a similar series that's just as good as Mega XLR that was also short lived, there's another series too that the series creators, as well as multiple people from Titmouse, actually worked on years later. Disney's Motor City. Kind of a interesting concept. Basically, a bunch of people who own a bunch of hot shot cars and motor cars rebel against a evil, authoritarian government. So, worth a watch. But yeah, and yes, even the junkyard mechanic is in that series too. Man, that guy knows how to travel across the multiverse. So,
Sometimes not even intentional.
not even intentional. So, yeah, Goat seems to know his way around. But yeah, if you guys are interested in the series, it's definitely worth a pickup. Definitely worth a watch. And look, I'll definitely do a more in-depth, more stylized, more polished video about the series sometime in the future. So, but for now, this is just sort of a template, a rough draft, if you will, of me talking more about animation. So, Renji, do you have anything to add about the series?
No, nothing to add.
Well, definitely go watch it and check it out for yourself.